When you're ready.
All right, I'm here to do another Tim Talk, and I want to introduce you to my pond, guys. This is behind my house. Myself, my wife Jean, and Julie, and all the other people that work at Headwaters, and a high school class planted this pond about, oh gosh, 12 years ago. And it's just a magnificent space now for wildlife, and it's got all kinds of animals in it, and incredible native trees, and I get to sit here. Wow. Be surrounded with this beauty. What a gift. And you might see this black spot come by periodically. It's my dog Colin. Welcome to Colin. He just laid down. I don't know if you saw him or not. But here I am, going to do some nice talks. The first one I want to do is called The World of Earth Spirits. And, this is a controversial talk in that a lot of people don't believe in what I'm about to talk about. They just don't. And I understand that. I'm also going to do a talk probably next on going into what we call the mystery. And I've referred to that before in other talks. So I want to first just lay out a foundation. And that is, I, Tim Corcoran, am not an airy-fairy, off-the-charts dude. I'm a pretty down-to-earth level guy. And so when I talk about earth spirits, I ask you to trust me that I'm telling you my truth, and allow for the possibility, if you're a disbeliever, in believing, or as we like to call it, the believing in the mystery, that there's something more to the world we live in that we will never understand with our logical brain. We just won't. We won't understand it with our logical brain. It's not even worth trying to figure out. And people of religion know that. People of religion believe things that the logical brain doesn't understand. And you can even take science and take something as simple as that our body is full of germs and microscopic organisms. And until the microscope was discovered by a Swedish man sometime in the mid-1800s, I think, no one knew. And all of a sudden they looked under the microscope and looked at body fluids or saliva or into a human body, into the organs, or into water or anything else, and under a microscope, and they saw an entire universe that we didn't know was there before. And then all of a sudden, wow, it's there. And you can ask that of any astronomer studying space, and the further they go, the more they see, and there's so many things that we just simply don't know or have an understanding of because they're not right in front of our eyes or right in a book or something like that. That being said, I'm going to just talk about this because it's important to me. When I say the world of earth spirits, you've probably heard of things like fairies and those kinds of things that Walt Disney's made famous and so forth through cartoons and movies and things, and that's where that kind of comes from. But that kind of in a subtle way makes fun of it, or doesn't always necessarily make fun of it. I don't mean that in a negative way, but they make light of it. What I want you to know, to me, there's the world of earth spirits that I know. There's two different things that I'm going to talk about today. One are what's often called the elemental beings. And these are beings that we've heard about them for years, for countless years, right? From psychics sometimes see them. People who spend a lot of time in nature see them. Often we feel them more than we see them, but because we trust our eyes more and not our feelings, we give up. But often we feel them more. We feel their presence. Like right now, I feel like I'm being watched. There's beings in the trees. And if I looked right now up in that big giant cottonwood tree, I couldn't necessarily always see them, but I know they're there. watching me. Although I do have the ability to actually see many things. If I told you what it was like for me walking in the woods, it'd be similar to a normal average person walking in downtown Manhattan without the COVID virus, um, walking in downtown Manhattan with people above or below and all around. That's how it is for me. It's the woods are a highly active place, and that's not just bears and birds and insects and so forth. It is elemental beings. Now, elemental beings, I believe, have a distinct purpose, and they've told me this, and that is they energetically care for the plants of the earth. They energetically care for the plants of the earth. They tend to the garden called the earth. And they're very simple beings with that direct purpose. And they don't like people much. They don't dislike people, but they don't really like to be around us. People often ask me, well, why don't they show themselves more? Why don't they come around more? Because we are doing what they don't want. We're damaging the world that they take care of. In general, the human race has not been good for the earth. We kill things, we take over things, we over control things, we pollute things. We don't show basic respect as a group of people. Obviously, there's incredible individuals that live on this planet, and that's why we're still here, and that's why I'm able to give this talk. So the elemental beings don't show themselves to people because they don't feel safe, and there's no reason for them to do so. They do show themselves to people who tend to be earth caretakers. What I'm trying to promote that we all take on. People who are more sensitive, that come first from heart and don't really have anything in them, any thoughts of violence or hatred or over control or endless anger. They respond well to that kind of a person. And generally, if you spend a lot of time in nature and you're calm and you wander and you fish or you look for birds or you photograph or you lay in the woods, you tend to come from a pretty good place. They'll start to show themselves. You'll look up in a tree, you'll look at a tree bark, you'll look on the ground, across the water, and you'll see a light maybe, or you'll see a shape, or you'll see a movement or a flutter or something like that, and it might catch you and you go, what is that? And generally what happens to us is when that happens, our mind doesn't know how to register it, so we usually just let it go and move on. And then they go away. They don't show themselves more. They can interact with butterflies, with dragonflies, with other animals really well. And again, I'll repeat, they tend the earth. If you look at all plants and living things on the earth, they are not just physical things that drink water and soak in sunlight through photosynthesis and create space for life to be. All living things have an energetic life force to them. You do, I do, and it's, again, part of the mystery. You can't always quantify what that is, but we are a lot more than what we seem to be, and so are trees, plants, and animals. And these elemental beings tend to the garden of that, the energeticness of beings. And they all have a different way of doing it. There are species, I'll say species for lack of a better term, there are species of elemental beings that live on the water, some in the ocean, some in lakes, some in creeks. And there are species that live only in trees, only in certain types of forests, in certain places in the world, in meadows, in flowers. There's ones that interact with insects like bees, pollinators, dragonflies, butterflies, so forth. So think for a minute about that. Just let that in. Think of yourself as a kid growing up. And every day you're in nature, say, or even also in the human world. You're in a classroom and you're introduced to new things. that you didn't know before. Like language, mathematics, or like tracking, or how to fishing, or animal and plant identification. New things appear every day in your life that you didn't know were there before. It's no different. This is no different, really. You have to work with your logical brain to put it aside and make it feel comfortable, to let your heart and the very soul of your being open up to the elemental beings, and then they may show themselves to you. But even if they never do, it's not something to take in a negative way. Just know there's so much more to this world than you or I will ever know, and just be happy with it. Be happy and enjoy the fact that that's the case. And the deeper we go, the further we go, the more possibilities there are for more to be discovered. So I may know that there's elemental beings, but then there may be a whole nother level of life that I've not even remotely accessed yet. And I'm not mad about that or frustrated. I'm curious. Another great word to remember, curious. Be curious. And the curiosity will take you down roads and pathways that you could never have imagined. Ugh. So, know you're not alone. Know they're here. And there's also been many books written about people who have had these kinds of experiences. One of my favorite books is it's the same people that wrote the famous books on how plants themselves are living beings and can relate to us on different levels. It's The World of Earth Spirits. That's one of the books, The World of Earth Spirits. And there are some scientists that feel like they have actually proven this. So you can research this more. But I want you to stay out of your head on this, if possible. I want you to stay into your feelings. And when you go in the woods, look for a shape, look for a pattern, feel a pattern, feel a shape, feel a presence. See if you smell something different. See how things taste. Your senses, as we've talked about so much before, are vital to helping this come alive and putting you in the space where the earth spirits can join you. I'll probably refer to this again because there's a particular earth spirit that lives on this land I call the Earth Keeper, and he has influenced me greatly in promoting this path of being an earth caretaker. And I want to go into that subject more in the future. But I want to pique your curiosity first, and then I want to do it. All right? Is that cool? I hope not. So I wish you all the best. Go seek out the elemental beings. It's a whole world that waits for you. Hope.